Welcome to This Week in Review, nerds. We are going to get down and dirty and cover a handful of shows because it's been a minute since we've reviewed too many things in recent memory. We've done a lot of news coverage the last couple weeks. So on the heels of that note, I'm going to kick things off with, it came out a few weeks back, but Netflix original series, 13 Reasons Why. They dropped season 3. And guys, just as a disclaimer before we get into this, I think we would be negligent not to at least state the obvious. We'll post a crisis hotline kind of thing in the notes. But for the sake of just being thorough, guys, you can go to Suicide Prevention Online .org, Lifeline, sorry, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. We'll post a link down below because this is one of the few shows on Netflix Netflix does a lot of serious topic shows, but this is one that got really sensitive, controversial things during its first season run, being heavily focused on suicide. But the show continues, even though now deviating from that main topic, the show continues pushing boundaries on dramatizing teenagers in high school dealing with real serious issues. So I'll throw down the synopsis for season 3, and we'll just kind of give you guys a couple bullet points on what this season covered. And me and Nick and Matt will just kind of share a brief opinion on how we feel about this season versus the previous ones. So to kick things off, the synopsis reads that in the third season, the Netflix drama welcomed viewers back to the world of Liberty High School. About 8 months after Clay Jensen, played by Dylan Minnette, or maybe Dylan Minnette, I might be saying that wrong again, succeeded in stopping Tyler, acted by a Devin Druid, from bringing a gun to the Spring Fling dance. Thanks for the reenactment, Nick. If you guys want to see that reenactment, go to youtube.com/c/Nerdentials. The students came together to help Tyler in his recovery. And that's kind of the focus for season 3. Matthew, your hand is raised. Good sir, what?
Say that 5 times fast. Sorry.
Matthew, your hand is raised?
I won't say that 5 times fast. And yeah, Matthew's pretty polite in this whole Skype call. Anytime he wants to talk, he just raises his hand, waiting for me to shut up. So, no, props to you, sir. So yeah, basically at the end of season 2, the controversy of season 2, aside from a retread of the trial of Hannah Baker and the suicide of season 1, season 2 kind of tapered through that and kind of ended with poor Tyler, who had been brutally assaulted by the high school football brutes, specifically
Monty.
Yeah, by Monty. Turned him to nearly crack and got him to actually bring a gun to school. And at the end of season 2, I was like, oh, they're actually going there. Because like this show keeps going in really crazy, controversial areas. And school shootings was one. I was like, oh, there's no way they're going to go there. And it ends with Clay talking him down, and they escape. Tony drives Tyler off in his car, and they take off, and that's the end of that season, leaving Clay waiting there with police on the way, and we didn't know what was going to happen to him.
And human popsicles.
Yes.
Wait,
now, season 3 jumps back in about this. Says about 8 months after those events, so a lot of other things have happened, and very quickly, it's in the trailer. It was a huge promotional piece of what we were going to expect for the topic of season 3, with the murder mystery title of Who Killed Brain Fart, help me out, Nick.
Bryce Walker.
Yeah, who killed Bryce Walker, and it was all in the promotional material and the trailer. So right away, that wasn't a surprise. We're now going, yeah, Nick.
Colonel Mustard in the library with a candlestick.
Totally what I was thinking, man.
Mr. Green in the library with the wrench.
This season, guys, I was very curious of what direction they'd go in because they kind of tapered at the end of season 2 with a possible school shooting, and then we kind of quickly left that with now a new mystery that kind of drives this whole season. And it's it's done for me, I think they did a really good job of stringing you along all 13 episodes for this season, where the majority of this is being narrated by a new character, Ani, who we find out befriended Clay Jensen for the majority of this season. And she seems to be in a kind of a black and white screen in an interrogation room, and she's literally narrating pretty much the entire season. In between the narrations, we're getting back and forth cuts between current events and flashbacks of what led to some of those events. And the cool thing I thought, Nick and Matt, about what they did to distinguish those two, like my wife Amy was watching it with me, and she kept getting confused about, wait, is this a flashback now? And I told her, pay attention, because the big key in what they did for really easily distinguishing this is a little thing that cinematographers like to use called a filter.
Uh-huh.
There was a very gray tone, heavy weighted feeling filter where everything kind of just had gray tones in the present day. And then all the flashbacks were vibrant and colorful, like, oh, nothing bad I mean, plenty of bad things have happened throughout the show, but they're in a happier place leading up to this tragedy of who killed Bryce. So, Nick, go ahead.
I would say one of the cool things that they did this season, they follow a very cool formula. First season, every episode kind of centers around one of the tapes of the people that offended her. Second season, every episode follows pretty much around a certain person, their day in court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This season, every episode follows along each character that could have possibly killed Bryce.
Yeah, and the show did, for me, a fairly good job of giving every one of these main characters really heavy motivational reasons, and you almost come to a point towards the end of the season where you feel like, wow, any one of them legitimately could have done it leading up to this. And me and Matt had a little bit of a wager on how it would end. We won't go into the details of that wager, but I got close. I guessed how it would have happened, but unlike my winning luck at Clue, I could not peg the person or the item used. Nick, how Matt figured it out kind of halfway through, I think, or pretty early on. Where do you feel you got to before the end? Were you surprised by the end?
Towards
or did
the end,
you guess?
Towards the end of season 2, I started feeling that this was going to happen and a certain person was going to do it. And
don't spoil it.
I know.
And you're right. How close were you?
And by season 3, they confirmed it. By episode 3, they confirmed it.
Huh. No, you're right. I mean, I hate talking in secretive circles, so we won't spend too much time doing that. We'll move on. But the character we're referring to that ends up being the culprit, definitely, I saw reasons, but man, they kept it so buried throughout season 3. They did a really good job of keeping that out of the loop, until towards the end. So what I'm going to say is this season definitely didn't shy away from a multitude of heavy topics. Tony and his family getting deported. We dealt with immigration in this season. We dealt with a crazy amount of betrayal. We dealt with a redemption story that my wife and I believe all of us agreed we hated Bryce's guts throughout season 1 and 2. And I hate saying this, I still don't like the character, but they actually wrote out a redemption for him in a way where you you don't agree, you still hate his guts, but it caused me personally to actually feel bad for where he was going before he was killed. I think I can say that without ruining too much of the rest of the season. And they even gave a redemption story for another scumbag, but I want to leave that alone. It's a tragic ending for a second character, which we didn't. I don't even think any of us actually saw coming, aside from the main topic of Bryce's murder. And I kind of want to leave that alone. That's kind of a reveal that's at the very end. I want to leave that alone too, guys. Um, Overall feelings compared to the previous seasons, how did you guys feel about season 3 as a series? Aside from the topics it dealt with, how did you feel about it as a show? That as far as intriguing you to watch it or not?
I personally, I think this season was actually done a lot better than the last season in the aspect of how the show flowed and how everything that they like in season 2 you could see like where things were like leading up to. In
I think
this
season
one,
2, Matthew, you agree with this statement? I think season 2 was the producers of the show being told, hey, the season 1's a hit. We need you to keep rolling with the idea. And they tried to find their ground, and they kind of rehashed the concepts by bringing Hannah Baker back through all of it as a psychological ghost in Clay Jensen's head,
yeah,
A little bit of that, yeah.
It was more or less like they wanted to go in a direction with season 2, but they couldn't. Like they just, I don't know. It just seemed too predictable in a sense. I mean, a lot of the topics in there were pretty good to be discussed, but at the same time, like you could see from like where episode 1 started to where the season ended, you could see pretty much how everything was going to pan out. With this season, it actually took you a little bit longer to figure out like where things were leading. You knew the end result prior, but you didn't know everything that was happening up until that point. Like it was very well kept under wraps, at least for me. Like I love mysteries. I love like
Yeah,
a
and
whodunit kind of thing.
And like you, Matt, I love feeding into the mystery and not trying too hard to figure it out. I like just being pulled through it, And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of reasons that's why I'm kind of happy to remain clueless until the end, for me.
Yeah. And with this season, like I was guessing a lot of different people going through this until like a key episode. I'm not going to get into details, but it kind of was like, okay, I can now see where this is going, kind of a thing. And it took me more time to figure that part out than anything else from previous things. Even though like season 1 was like not even something you had to like predict, like you just
it was
just more character building
drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just my take on it. I really enjoyed it.
1 to 5, what do you give this, Matthew?
Straight 5. Like they couldn't have done better in my opinion.
Yeah, for at least the context of the show and what it has become up to this point. Which, on a quick side note, I'll pass it off to Nick in a second to conclude his rating. But we did get confirmation by Netflix that season 4 will be their final wrap-up season, and I won't say anymore. I'll just pass off Nick's concluding thoughts on this season. What do you think, Nick?
It was great. Even though I figured it out early, they did a really good try at giving you credible reasons to think that other people did it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they played out each episode doing that, you quite literally could have walked away from each episode saying, hey, they could have done that. It could have been them, or it could have been them. But it was, like I said before, when I watched the show and I told you guys my feelings on it before, this makes you hate humans in general and realize how awful people can be, and realize that best way I could put it is everyone has a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone will do messed up, horrible, awful things if given the chance. Not because they're horrible people, but because people make mistakes.
Or if found in the right, or in a lot of cases for this series, the wrong situations.
Yeah.
Definitely. 1 to 5, Nick?
Oh, it's a 5, hands down.
Okay, and I didn't give mine, but compared to all previous seasons and as a singular piece, like if we just came in on this season, I think there's enough backstory in the beginning that you could just drop into this season. They give you a decent recap of where the characters are at and the way it leads through. You could watch this season as a standalone story, I believe. And for that reason, I give it a 5 as well. So for all you nerds out there, that made season 3 a nerdtastic experience. And again, a link for the hotline is down below, and there I'll post the 13reasonswhy.com link as well for anyone.
Yeah, they did a TV Guide did an interview by the actor who plays as Bryce Walker, Justin Prentice. And even the actors playing in the show were completely blown away by the redemption arc they decided to go on this. I have a part where he was saying what he thought about it. If it's okay to read it.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Yeah. There's no redeeming what Bryce has done. He has done atrocious things. I think he's certainly trying to make amends in his own way for the actions that he has done, the actor told TV Guide. I think it's an interesting arc for him in that we get to see him struggle with empathy, what it means to actually take other people's feelings into account. He's always sort of been the alpha jock who can do whatever he wants without consequences. This is the first time he actually really had to go, oh, I've done some irreparable damage to people. He sort of struggles with how to go about doing that. He's learning to be emotional for the first time. It by no means rights the wrongs that he has done, but in his own way, he is trying.
Yeah, and his own character in the show even conveys that notion in his last words before the end of the show. And so they did a good job at conveying that and showcasing that, even, which is why it sucks to say that we actually can feel a little bad for him because he's trying to change, but they still make that statement. Yeah. Anyway, really good show, but again, it's not for everyone. I just want to reiterate that to our listeners out there. We all know people that have gone through really traumatic things, and if you've gone through something traumatic, this may not be a show that you will enjoy or even want to watch. It is good for those that can handle it to maybe understand others who are going through it, and so maybe for us, it might be helpful for us to have an idea of maybe how to talk to someone that needs help, or we can see signs of people that need help. And so for that, that's why we're posting the crisis hotlines in the links below. If you guys are fans or listen to our show on the regular, just so that you guys know that there are people and places to talk to if you need it.